Lean is effectively being efficient. And the way you keep things lean is always having a consistent value outcome for what you're doing.
Hello, welcome back to Evolve Podcast. It's episode 10, and you're with me, Lewis, and BDL Drizzy, Sam.
Oh, fuck. What? What? Rewind that and then
BDL Drizzy.
What the hell?
That's a throwback,
It
because this comes out.
It does. It comes back so late. You know what? If you're going to call me that.
You called me Drake last week. You called me Drake last week. I would have apologies.
No, you ruined. I came into this episode so hyped, and you just threw such a curveball at me. Like, what do you want me to do with that information? Or call me BL Drizzy.
How's your week, sir?
I'm not going to call you Kendrick, because Kendrick's a go. I'm good, man. I was good until this very moment. This has basically set the tone for my weekend of being terrible. No, I'm good, dude. I'm good.
Good. Tell me your, and then I'm going to go into mine, because I've had a...
Well, I'm going... A lot of the stuff I have, the context of which lies within our last episode 9. Episode 9 was all about, what can I be doing better as someone who's, we didn't mention this, but was it type A personality? I'm very either all in or all out.
Okay.
Very easily fixated on stuff. I took a bit of a backseat this week. Tried to take more of a relaxed approach. I did it with a risk of what if someone, catches on that Sam's doing a little bit less this week? What if someone catches on that Sam isn't messaging and pestering as much this week? And you know what? No one cared. Not a single person bothered me as much as I thought. No, well, people bothered me, but not a single person came up to me and kind of went, "Oh, you've been quiet this week."
And tune in to episode 11, where Sam regrets all the decisions he made this week and realised, I could have done so much last week. I could have made this on my website.
No,
I know what. I told you were going to say this next week, but God.
No, I won't, because I hope I don't. Let me put it that way. I hope I don't, because I caught up with Ollie after we recorded the last episode. Ollie came round and we basically went for shisha, which probably wasn't the best considering I'm on my health. I'm on like my health hype right now. But we went for like shisha, nice chilled chat, and we talked about what are we doing with anxious extrovert. What's going on? Like, why have we not made any progress? Why have we just been coming up with ideas and not actioning anything? What can we do to revive this company? And what do we set in stone to kind of say, okay, maybe it's not going where we want to be. Let's quit, right? And the conversation was kind of all just led to, we both know what we need to do. We've just put so much pressure on ourselves to do it perfectly that we're not executing anything. We keep doing stuff and changing it, because it's not like we're always scared of disappointing ourselves. So I basically just sat there and just went, let's just have fun with it. Let's not care about what people think. Let's just, and any cool fun ideas we come up with that we think, oh, this will improve it. We only implement it right now if we can achieve it, if we can start and finish it in a weekend. If we can't start and finish it in a weekend, don't bother. Let's just focus on getting the stuff we need to get to make the functionalities work there. And then let's focus on getting the designs in the right place. Ollie's basically saying like, oh, he'll redesign the platform. And that's dangerous when you're a techie person who's also creative, because you end up in a situation where it's an endless loop of design, execute, design. And it never feels perfect when you're designing whilst you're coding. You need to have the designs ready and then go into coding. So I basically said, how about we just get the functionalities there, and we're going to just go on Fiverr or something and hire a UI UX person for just a short-term project, just to revamp the whole website, redesign it all for us, and we'll execute that design. And we'll go live, I think by the end of this financial quarter, we'll go live with something cool and epic. So we're doing a bit of groundwork in the background, and that was a huge win. Work-wise, there's been a few annoying emails, people making me stay later than I want to. People making me do a little bit more than I probably should be doing for certain tasks, only to throw away at a later date. Some people straight away just not listening, right? Yeah. So I've just been kind of looking at that and just going, but does it bother me really? Or am I making it bother me because I think it makes me look good at what I do? And then I was just like, yeah, I think I'm forcing it to bother me, because if I fix it, then I feel like, oh, I've achieved something. So I've ignored it. And other thing I've done is I've done a better job, because maybe I've been in more of a positive mindset. I've done a better job of keeping track of what I've achieved in a day and in a week, compared to just keeping track of things I need to go get back to and fix. And every now and then I remember I need to do something. I'll go, okay, I'll time block it for tomorrow or next week and work towards it. So it's been an all right week. We'll see. Next week might be different, because I've set myself a tough deadline to complete a certain presentation that I could really do in a day, as long as I ignore emails. But it's hard to do that sometimes in my job, because there's always firebombs and God knows what going off when you're not reading your emails. So yeah, that's been me. It's been a bit more zen. How about you though, dude? What's up?
My week, Sam, I'll tell you what, it was weird. My week was weird because it was filled with like ups and downs. And you saw me my down. My down day was Tuesday. And this is where work was just getting to me more than usual. And it was one of those moments where, like, it was one of those self-doubt moments where you just felt like I was trapped in like that box of like negativity. And I was just like, what if this goes to shit? What like company never takes off? And what if I'm just stuck? And then what if I'm just made to be miserable? Like, what if that's just it? And I was in that like cycle of just a negative feedback loop just constantly. And it was a really, really dark place to be in. And it reminded me of like my former self in like 2019 in my first job. And then that was pissing me off even more because I was like falling back into these old habits. And then I also was like, everybody was just like on my way home, like on the tube, like, you know, I was just like, everyone's just like pissing me off. Everyone's in my way. And like, I did like something out of character. Like, you know, if there was like someone going for a chair, like, and there's like us two and there's a chair and like the chair's free, like I just went for the chair. I was like, fuck this. Like, I need this chair. Like, I'm stressed out. And like, I went back to the drawing board. Like, as soon as I got home, I felt fine. And I was like, that one thing I did, I was like, that was very much out of character. And I let the enemies get to me that day. And it was just like okay, how can I like correct this? So, you know me, I very much like to be self-aware. I went back to the drawing board and I was like, what are the things that I did that day that led to me not feeling like myself and letting people get to me? And it was like, one, slept badly and it didn't work out. Immediately I was like, I know that's the problem. But also and like I was really thinking about it, like, because I don't like the fact that I let people being a dick to me make me a bit more of a dick that day. And that's one thing which I didn't like. And the thing is, it's not their fault, it's mine, because I let myself react that certain way and I let it affect my mood. And so, because like when I got back here, I then was like thinking negatively about like editing, and I was like, I just don't know what to do. And I was like, I just felt like I'm stuck. And I was just like, and I was thinking about all these things that I had to do. And I was just like, there's just so much for me to do. And I was like, I just don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing. And honestly, I was just in just such this trapped mood. And I realized it's like, you know what, I'm in that 1% day where all I could do is move the needle by this much. And I kind of calmed down. I took a moment to myself, like had a shower, and I was like, okay, how can I move the needle by this much today? Like, just so this day isn't just a complete L. Like, what is it that I can do that can just take one little tiny little, not even a baby step, just like, how can I crawl a little bit more just so I can have something today that is somewhat of a small win? And that was me reaching out to someone on LinkedIn who was a video editor and like messaging some people and like picking back up conversations. I was like, fine, at least I have something. And you know what's really weird? I was reflecting because I, went on PS5 to like de-stress, and I'm a nerd, so I was playing Spider-Man PS5, obviously, and I've already completed it before. And it's the one time which I'll be like, you know what, video games aren't a complete waste of time, because everyone likes to shit on video games on the internet. And I actually had a very good lesson, and I want to see if this works going forward. So I'm gonna geek out for a few minutes, and I promise it's getting somewhere.
Let it go.
Okay, right. Bro. So, Spider-Man.
Nerd.
So Spider-Man, right, there's a villain, and his name is Mr. Negative, right? And Mr. Negative has the power to, like, corrupt people and corrupt their minds. And so you're playing Black Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Mr. Negative like gets hold of him, and basically and you're in this sequence where everything that's happening is in his head, and there's basically a sequence where his closest mates are saying like all these like bad things to him that he somewhat deeply thinks about himself and all his insecurities, and like his mum goes and be like, oh, it's such a waste of time and you can't do this, and like then it's like dad comes in and he's like saying like, yeah, you're complete disappointment, all sort of stuff, and it's all his things that he's thinking about himself, like deep down, but obviously it's Mr. Negative who's corrupted him. And then it's only once that he's able to actually be like, wait, no, these people wouldn't say these things and this stuff isn't true, that he's able to then beat Mr. Negative, right? So I was like, what a poignant message. It's like once you're able to stop the cycle and say like, you know what, these things that I'm saying to myself aren't true, you're able to beat Mr. Negative. So going forward, Sam, I'm going to try and beat Mr. Negative and spot that train of thought. And when I'm feeling like I'm shitting on myself and be like, wait, no, this isn't me. This is Mr. Negative corrupting my mind. And this is very poignant when I'm in the office. And I feel like when I'm at the office, there are some Mr. and Mrs. or Miss Negatives that get to me more than others. And so going forward, I'm going to label certain people in my mind as Mr. Negative, and they're trying to corrupt me. And I'm not going to let it happen because I'm Black Iron Man. And that's what I'm going to do.
I could see this going. I can see this going so wrong. In a meeting, be like, hi, Mr. Negative. I mean, Dan.
Yeah.
It's just like, I can just see it happening.
It was just good. It was just something quite poignant. And I was like, this would be a good metaphor for the podcast. Because some people have like, cool, their theories. And my theory is the Mr. Negative theory, right? And I'm going to study that going forward. I'm going to apply that and see if it gets me out of a negative train that I was on. But what's quite interesting as well is that another reason why I was in a bit of an annoying place is it's one of those things where it's like your action kind of like reinforces who you are. And there was just a moment where I sat there and I was like, there's no way I've come this far just to do emails for the rest of my life for shit I don't care about. And that was the triggering point. And I was like, there's just no way like this is what I'm doing right now. And it was my ego getting in the way of thinking, you know what? I'm thinking like I'm here and I want to be here. And I was just sitting there being like, I'm emailing about these dumbass campaigns that I just don't care about. And people are bitching about 2% click-through rate and all this kind of crap that I don't care about. I know other people care about it and I'm not trying to diss anyone's career, but for me personally, I could not care less.
What's stopping you from handing your notice in and going to work for your brother whilst you work on your film ideas in the background?
I'm not working for my brother. And the thing is, right, again, because he's in advertising as well, it's just going to be another thing I don't care about. So
right.
the thing is, right, it's like there's a bit of like a savior crisis where like, if I go into another job, then I'm going to be happy there. And it's like, the thing is, I realize like, there's no savior coming for me. And it's for me doing like all these things I'm doing and that's going to save myself. And what's quite poignant is that I shared it on the Instagram today. And it's our boy, Stephen Bartlett. And he was saying like, there's 5 things that keep people happy. And the number one thing, and this is what got to me the most, is like a sense of forward motion.
Yeah.
And when I don't feel like I'm making any sort of forward motion, I get incredibly frustrated. And that's why I was like, I need to do one thing today just to make me feel like I have somewhat of a win and making some sort of progress. Because work, although it can be challenging at times, it's not a challenge I care about. So I don't care about the purpose of it. And so he talks about, control, obviously the control over your role and things like that. And the sense of challenge, you can't be under-challenged because you just don't care about it. If you're challenged too much, it stresses you out, so you need the right amount of challenge. And it's obviously the people around you that are touched upon as well, and the purpose and like, do you care about it? And of course, forward motion. So it's those 5 things. I didn't feel like I was getting any of those 5 things today. And that sense of forward motion is, I think, is probably the most critical one. And there's a thing about reflecting back to episode 2, when I read the passage on do the thing, and how I said talking about the thing or listening to a podcast about the thing can make you do the thing. So I came up with a hack today that I tried. I won't say a hack, but I'm leveraging the feeling of doing the thing without actually doing the thing can make you feel like you're doing a thing, and you get a false sense of forward emotion. So I thought, I wonder if I could use this to my advantage. So at work, I can't obviously do the thing, and we talked about how listening to a podcast about someone who's doing the thing or reading about doing the thing isn't doing the thing, but it can make you feel like you are. So I started listening to podcasts about editing and like watching all these editing videos, and I haven't edited at all, but I was like taking notes of these podcasts and things like that, and I was doing the analysis and taking notes going forward, and thinking more about these ideas. And like you said earlier, like you're like thinking about ideas, and like you and Ollie can get into these sort of like trances of like doing all these ideas and not executing. I thought, okay, obviously I'm still going to be doing like the work that I don't like doing, but I can listen to podcasts about editing and get all these ideas and feel productive and feel like I'm getting a full sense of forward emotion. So I tried that today, and I feel a lot better. And it's because I feel like I'm doing something, but I'm not actually doing the thing. So there's a way that doing the thing, or the entrepreneur tendencies, I found quite useful. So dear listeners, if you're in a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, you're not feeling forward emotion because you're not doing a thing, fake it or get a false sensation. So
explain that one.
So what I'm saying is, right, because you said like listening to podcasts isn't doing the thing, but it can make you feel like you are. So get a full sense of doing the thing if you're stuck in a place where you can't do the thing. So I can't pull up Premiere Pro at work and edit and do the thing, but I can listen to podcasts. I can maybe slightly go on YouTube or go on Instagram or whatever, or like read a book during my lunch break about people who have done the thing. So I'm going to do that going forward to feel somewhat productive and get me through the day.
Do you before you go, do you at least make a note of what you're doing, so then later on you can just carry on from what you started? So you are technically doing the thing then, because you're making progress towards the work you will be acting on later on, rather than watch a video and then when you start the work, still check video again.
Yeah, I mean the main point is to act on it later. So it's a dangerous tactic, because like if you like watch all these videos and get all these grand ideas and then go home and do nothing, then it is a waste.
That's what I'm like sometimes as well. Yeah. Like I sometimes where people message me, and if I preview the message, I've done it. I've read the message now, and I'll respond to it in my head like, haha, funny, or yeah, I'll be around later, because I've read the response in my head, and I've seen the message. That's the job done. I'll never reply to that message. I'll just forget about it because I've done the task in my head. And it can be that sometimes when I look into like how to code this certain feature or how to do this, I'll look it up, be like, okay, I've learned it, I'll sort it out tonight. And then it'll come to evening, I've lost the enthusiasm to do it now because I already know what I need to do.
Yeah. I hear you. But one other thing which I started doing as well, just quick, I mentioned it in last week's episode, is that I'm using the app Forest which is like the timer, and that's getting me through mundane tasks. And I did that, and I basically sandwiched that with having on the podcast, which is called the Editing Podcast, funnily enough. And yeah, that kind of helped. I have a podcast recommendation for you as well, other than this one.
For me, or for
for you?
Not
I think
for me. Yeah, you guys stay here.
For you, for the listeners,
you about it.
For the listeners and you. No, I listened to the Mel Robbins podcast for the first time, and you know what? She made me feel really good about myself. And I know for you respond a lot to some feminine energy, and
I do.
She was like, "It's your friend Mel, and today I'm going to tell you all these things, and I love you, and have a nice day." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Mel." She's just, she has a lot of positive energy. So I think you'll like that. So yeah, guys, go listen to, after you're done listening to this, of course, go give Mel Robbins a listen.
And say
Evolve Podcast. Tell her that the Evolve Podcast sent you, and she'll really go, "Who the fuck's that?"
let her know we exist.
Let her know we're here. We love her. But yeah, shout out Mel.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the point of the episode today, anyway, Lewis.
Yeah. Go on.
Firstly, before we dive into that, it doesn't seem as chaotic of a week. Not to downplay your feelings about your week, but it sounds like you did what I used to do which is fixate on a lot of negatives, because it sounds like there was so many wins in there, and you probably didn't even recognize it while she was saying it out loud. But it does sound like you achieved a lot this week. So I'm just saying, I'm just gonna put out there, I'm the guru now. The student has become the master.
It's quite interesting you say that. So I think we should have a new segment. As it's episode 10, we should do a wins of the week.
Yes.
Because it will force us to see the positive. Actually, before we go into that, what were the wins that you identified? Because I could identify, so I could identify.
So I think there was a moment where you recognise that your enthusiasm for your job isn't 100% there. But you went into talking about the editing experience and your mindset around finding a way of balancing your personal life, well, not personal life, but your two business lives, I guess, your editing life and your work life. You went into a really interesting mindset of, although you didn't have the enthusiasm to do the job you need to do, you still managed to do it and power it through, which is showing grit. That's really important, because there's many times, no matter how perfect the job is, there's going to be days where you're going to hate the task you need to do. You need to be able to force your way through it. And you were able to achieve that. Not only achieve that, you were able to put time aside to find wins for your editing experience. So during your work time, you were still able to find value for things that you really enjoy, which someone like me and many people struggle to do, because once you're in a negative mindset, you're already panicking about the job you need to do and how much you hate it. The thoughts of balancing the work with some other tasks is almost impossible. So although that doesn't seem like a win to you, there are some people that are watching this episode today that might be thinking, well, fair play, because he actually managed to do some research for his editing and he managed to move forward, just like you were saying. The next part about that is think more around your enthusiasm around editing. I think you've added more to it. When I asked you, why don't you go work for your brother then? And then at least you got like more freedom of movement, right? And you can do your editing on the side and no one's going to like have a go at you if you're doing it, because he already understands what your personal goals are, all this stuff. And you were like, no, I'm not going to work for my brother. You understand there's value to the path you're taking deep down, and you understand that there are wins to the path you're taking. The journey isn't 100% all fun all the time, but there are wins to it. And although you haven't made a statement that you recognize that, I think your description of your week so far has the underlying factor that regardless of what you're doing, you understand there's a core value to what you're doing, whether it's keeping a roof above your head, even though you technically don't need to be doing that, because you've got support systems that would kick in if you needed them. You're capable and self-sufficient enough to still grind through your own path and still manage to find values for your own goals. I think those are huge wins.
Oh, cheers, man. I appreciate that.
So
I appreciate that.
My win of the week.
Go on.
So started Thai boxing, went back to Thai boxing. I'm trying to flex my guns, but this top's too big for me. I have lost weight though.
Oh, nice.
I have lost weight. So win number one, I've lost weight. Not to say that losing weight is the best thing, but I am carrying a particular amount of body fat that I'm not used to carrying. I'm carrying a lot more weight than I'm used to carrying. And to summarize it, before COVID, I probably weighed around 80 kg, mid 80 at most. After COVID has come and passed, and I haven't exercised properly on my cardio and doing all the things, I've just been doing heavy weights. I've shot up to 113 or 14 kg at the highest point. I'm now weighing in, I think in the mornings, at about 107 kg. In the evenings, exactly. On a good morning, that is. So if I've not...
You've lost weight so quickly.
I know, but I do think it's like 1, muscle memory, 2, newbie gains, and 3, a lot of it's been my mindset around exercising and working out, because there's a lot of things I'm physically capable of doing, but I've mentioned this a few times about how my anxiety has a physical impact on me, especially when I'm sparring or training, where I feel overwhelmed and I start shutting down, like my arms get stiff. It's almost like I can't move sometimes. And my goal has been to power through that. And it's been like every session I've reminded myself that you didn't die. And I'm just thinking, okay, well, every round we do is about 3 minutes. If I go as hard as I can for those 3 minutes and focus on just recuperating the minute rest, then I'm fine. And if I can do this for a whole session and nothing bad happens, that means in the next session, maybe I can go harder. So I've turned my weightlifting mentality of going heavier every session into a Thai boxing mentality of just going heavier every round I can and pushing myself. And my ultimate goal, well, not my ultimate goal, my next goal right now is to be able to do sit-ups in between rounds to keep my heart rate high, keep my fitness up and everything. And then on Monday, I managed to do pads with the coach as well as sparring afterwards without stopping mid-round at all throughout the whole session. That was near impossible for me. Yesterday, I did all of that on pads, and the guy who I did pads with, I'm not going to lie, I punished him. I went hard on him. I was like, I was making him do dumb moves. I was playing like UFC, and he was my main character. Like, I was just holding pads and all. I'm like head kick, uppercut, head kick. I was doing like 20 moves per minute for this guy. No, per second for this guy. So then when he turned around to me, obviously, sweet revenge for him.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, I'm going to get you now. I powered through it all. My punches, my reaction time may have been slower in certain times where I wish like I could have punched a bit quicker. But at the end of the day, my goal at the time is just not to get on my knees and rest. My goal was to just keep standing up the whole time. And that's what I did for the whole of the pad session until the coach was like, okay, put your wraps on, time to do a bit of live sparring. I didn't sit down, even between breaks. And the one time I did sit down was to do sit-ups for the last 2 rounds of the sparring session in between rounds. So I'm coming back stronger and better than ever. I still weigh 107 kg.
Yeah, but you're on your anime arc.
I am.
I
am. This is my villain arc. Watch out. People better not step on my crepes. Do not piss me off, because I still weigh 107 kg and my fitness is coming up better than it was before.
That's what's scary though. Because
exactly.
you'll be able to move around with that weight and you're not taking breaks. Like, I'd be scared shitless. I'm like, this guy's doing press ups right now and I'm seeing dots. Like, yeah, that's it.
That's what I want. So I want to push myself. And
yeah.
I think that mentality is helping with my whole Zen approach at work of just getting along with things. And I've really realized that a lot of the moments where I think I can't do something, it's my anxiety kicking in, making me feel like the world will burn if I fail at this. And I panic and I exert too much energy on the tiniest things. So I'm embracing the wins.
It's crazy how, like, because obviously people think energy expenditure is just like when you're exercising and things like that. You'd be surprised how many calories you burn just by brain power and overthinking and stressing out. It's crazy.
The best way I can explain it is, you know, when you're trying to run in your dream and you physically can't run. That's how it feels like when I'm trying to do a task whilst anxious. Like, I'm trying to type sentences. I physically can't do it. I'm trying to like punch the bag and my arms literally like, but then what happens is basically like, imagine like you're running in a swimming pool, for example. You run as fast as you can, but like you put so much effort into taking one step. That's me on normal dry land trying to do exercises when I'm anxious. So I'm just trying to get past that mental barrier, because I know if I get past that mental barrier, it's going to be a madness. It's actually going to be crazy what I can and can't do. So yeah, that's my wins. Have you got wins? Have you got particular wins you want to focus on, Lewis?
You know what? Actually, like, I'm getting good feedback from the pod, which is good, and I'm getting ideas for what I can do for my own company, and I think I found a way as well to get better at editing as well. Because I said, like, I got like this Adobe Premiere course, like, in November 2022, and I haven't done every single bit on the course yet, but I think I found a better way for me to learn, and I learn by, you know, giving me a task and learning on hand. I hate being told, like in a meeting when people are like, oh, we're going to train you on this, and it's like a 2-hour like call, and I learned nothing. I need to have an outcome attached to what I'm learning. So with that, what I've done is that whenever I go on social media and I get like an ad, or if it's like you know, a trailer for Stephen Bartlett's podcast, or it's like someone else doing an ad, I'll watch it and how it's edited. And if I think I could do it, I'll be like, cool. But if there's like an effect or some weird transition that I know I can't do, I go, oh, I need to know how to do that, because this is what I'm seeing. And if I'm seeing it, that means the millions of other people are seeing it. I'm only seeing it because it's popular, and that's what gets people's attention. So I'm going onto social media with the lens of, if I know I can't do this thing some other editor has done, I need to go and learn how to do it. And there's one I saw today, and it was like a film roll like transition, and there was one which was like really cool captions and like all these like glitch like VHS effects and stuff like that. So that's how I'm going to learn how to edit going forward. I'm going to see how I go without going on this course for like a week, because I just find it dull. I'm just like, oh, it's like 14 minutes and they're going to be like, hello, welcome to today's lesson, and today we're going to do this. So first you got... And it's like, it's boring. Whereas if I know, okay, I want to learn how to use this effect, and also what I'm going to try to do is try and either create an edit for me to specifically use that effect, or use it for the pod in like trailers and stuff like that. So that's what I'm thinking going forward. There's one other thing which I had as well, and it's deep down, I think I knew this, but I'm going to start doing it. And because like I said, I was listening to the editing podcast, and it's like with Mr. Beast editor and like Logan Paul's editor, and like these guys are big. And they said like the biggest thing which I was finding frustrating is like, you know, when you go on these freelancer jobs and whatever, it's like it's like that old proverb of like, oh, to get a job you need experience, but to get experience you need a job. Whereas like I'm in a position where actually I'm already creating my own content with you. However, I need to start recording my own stuff as well in order to make room to like show off all these like editing things that I do know. So I'm going to start, I've already said like for the pod, I want to start uploading like videos and like these book recommendations and like things like that. So I've jotted down like loads of ideas that I'm going to do for videos and things like that for either Xander for Instagram or Xander sort of like podcast evolve thing, and go about it that way. So I'm going to kick that off very, very soon. So that's like a big tick for this week. That's a big win for this week.
Huge wins. And I think, you know, I was trying in my head to also make a connection between what we're talking about and obviously the focus of our today, which is a lean mindset or a lean approach. What do you want to title this list?
This one? I think it's like lean decision making. I think is the best way to put it.
Let's do that.
I would,
and I think,
you go on, kick off.
Oh, thank you. I was just like, yeah, thank you. It's right too much. But I think a lot of the underlying behaviors.
Sorry, just to quickly interrupt. Before you go into what we're talking about, define lean.
Okay, let me segue into that smoothly then.
Okay.
So I was going to say a lot of the underlying behaviors we've displayed or discussed, not only on this episode, but pretty much all of the episodes, has in some way been around lean decisioning. And I'd say lean, my definition of it, and I'm hoping that it's a definition we all agree with here, because there's like the business context of lean, and there's lean in terms of how we approach things, and there's lean in terms of how your work wants you to do things. Lean is effectively being efficient in how you think and how you process towards an outcome. In a business context, you can have lean logistics, right? It's being efficient in achieving the resources you need, processing the resources you need, and getting it to the people that need it. A good example would be, I don't know, manufacturing coat hangers, right? You know, the steel rods. You've got a machine that makes it, you buy the aluminium from somewhere, all part of the same process. By the time the rod's made, chucked in the lorry, it's already at Asda, ready for you to pick up and break later on. And then you're back in that circle. It's a nice, smooth circle, step by step, right? That's lean. Everything's efficient, everything works. And it usually works for products that there's no redesigning, there's nothing to do to make it better. It is what it is. And it's basically whoever can make it faster and quicker and cleaner are the best in the market. So you use a lean approach. And then you've got lean at work, which is like lean agile thinking that a lot of companies, I don't think they go on about as much as anymore, but they used to, which is basically you are, as an employee, you're an agile thinker. You're able to look at a problem, conceptualize it, and think about the best ways of approaching it. However, your approach has to be lean. And the way you keep things lean is always having a consistent value outcome for what you're doing, what you're agile thinking about. It could be, okay, guys, we need to make X amount of money this quarter. We need to do this. You know that the money is always something, the value you need to achieve. So you have to come up with a creative way to consistently achieve it. So the outcome is really the lean part of it in the business. Personal life is what I was saying that we talk about regularly, which is we as individuals, Lewis, and I'm not speaking for everyone, I'm speaking for me and you because we talk a lot, is we are constantly trying to find the most efficient approach and the most effective approach to achieve our goals, right? to achieve our outcomes. And that's basically what we set out to do in this pod, is to make ourselves accountable so we can get something out of things. Admittedly, we're very agile in how we kind of trial and test different approach of doing things. But our general process is pretty much the same, which is trial something, test it out, touch base with each other, talk about it, action it. If something works, we maintain it, and then we add on to it with a new thing that we've learned and we develop. So we're still in a bit of a messy stage, but at the end of the day, we're aiming towards some kind of lean approach of having a consistent rule of thumb to follow in life. And that's more or less my view of the different types of lean. I think decision making is something we're going to focus on today because there's a lot to learn. I know you, being you, have done some reading or learning to fixate on it a bit more. So I'm going to shut up.
Absolutely, man. So I got introduced to, this actually the book, Lean Startup by Eric Ries, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's a great book. And I think even if you aren't interested in entrepreneurship and business ownership, I think you should study it. And basically, I exactly agree with you, Sam. Lean is basically an efficient way of providing value with it's like the least amount of waste as possible. And the example that I would give is like, for example, if the car didn't exist, for example, or there was no sort of way of transportation, this book basically talks about like how you're an MVP, which is a minimal viable product, and it's the least amount of effort to provide a valuable product. So, for example, an MVP for a car would be a bike. It wouldn't just be a wheel on its own, because a wheel on its own isn't going to get you anywhere. So the natural progression of a vehicle would have been, the bike, then a moped, then a motorcycle, then a car. That's how it naturally progresses. And so what the main takeaway I got from this book, and the thing is, I read this book years ago, and the one thing I remember is the build, measure, learn feedback loop. And that's basically, you build your product or your service, you measure it in terms of how you identify it successful, and then you get the feedback in order to improve. And this is a constant cycle. Now, there are ways that you can, this is very focused on like products, but how you could do this in a service. Sometimes for most services, you don't even necessarily need to be lean because there's sufficient evidence that what you're trying to do works. So for example, with video editing, I'm very much in the service industry. I'm not creating a product or anything, but I know that there are several video editing businesses that exist. So I know that the model already works. So I don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel on how to cut videos. Like, I'm not programming like a video editing software. So I know it works. However, I can use the lean thinking in terms of what is the quickest, best, and cheap way for me to do this without spending, £10,000 on like a laptop and buying all this gear and then realizing I don't like editing. So I think I say in like episode 2, I downloaded allegedly some like cracked version of Final Cut Pro and downloaded movies and cut up montages and watched videos on YouTube. Again, all of this was free to find out I like editing. Allegedly, to find out I like editing and could do it. So that's a perfect example of how you can make lean decisions. It's not me going, I need to go and, spend a shitload of money on this course and buy the best laptop in the world and get a new desk and like buy and spending all this fucking money to then realize I don't like doing the thing. So I very much was lean in terms of how I set up myself for success. So I wasn't going and spending a shitload of money, and that for me is the leanest way I could do it, because that's like the waste, as opposed to time. And obviously going onto YouTube is free. Obviously now this was like back in 2019 when I was like on half the money I'm on now. So now I can afford to spend a bit more money and things like that. And it's like I'm still lean in terms of how, even like when I did like my very first video, like using the marathon, like I bought a very cheap shit mic. I used my current laptop and I used my phone, and I spent like £5 on a shitty tripod, but I could have even like set it up by like stacking a load of books and having a video pointing towards me. And so being lean, if in terms of you want to experiment and try things new, start with what you already have. Like I'm saying, if you're interested in editing, you don't need to go and, buy Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve and all sort of stuff. Like you could use iMovie, like it's on your phone. So that for me is how I was very much lean. And even like when we did the podcast, like I'm using the mic on my laptop, which is what I already have. Mm-hmm. We started off with very shit mics, and then Sam sounded like he was underwater. So now, the 10 episodes in, we spent a bit more money and got very nice new mics. But even like with the website that I have for my company, I again, because I have a bit more resources, I know that in terms of how I can save time and be lean, and a lot of people fixate on dumb details that they don't think is important. And this is particularly true for people who don't understand anything about setting up a business. When you say, oh, we'll set up a company, we'll go, oh, okay, what's the company name? And they fixate on that for 10 hours. And it's like, oh, we got to spend 10 hours focusing on a logo. My company logo is an X and S in black and white because I'm like, I don't care about a company logo because I just need a company. I didn't spend 10 hours building a website because I can just use Wix and spend 20 quid and it's set up. And it's like, I'm not gonna, well, this is like, wow. But for me, it's like I didn't want analysis paralysis to get me stuck. And I didn't want to waste 10 hours on each of these minute details to then have nothing. So I was like, okay, what's the quickest way? And if the thing is, like for me as well, I'm very much in the mind of I don't need to become a master of everything to be good at it. Like, sure, down the line, if I want to improve the company logo on the website, hopefully by then I can have a team of people who can do that thing better than me. Because to be honest, I don't care about website design. I don't care about my logo, but I can find people that will be. And even if we're in good relations with our university, there will be interns and there will be people who will want to do that shit for free. So, and they're way more passionate about it. And they've spent their literally whole degree doing it. So why? And it's egotistical of me to think, oh, I'm the business owner, so it's got to be all me. So I'm not going to fixate on these things that I don't care about. That's for other people who care about it.
I will say this though. So the anxious extrovert logo, right? That was I did product design, so I guess I can brag that maybe I had some kind of background skills to support me there. But that logo took me about an hour at best to kind of like just come up with, edit it, and throw it on there, right? Not even that. The first version took me about 10 minutes. I just did the A and the E, and then I got fixated, and I spent an hour doing the A and E in different angles. I was like, okay, this is cool, this is fine. The first version was like pink and or yellow based on some research I found, some nonsense stuff, I don't know. Anyway, so I put that aside.
Okay.
And then I submitted it as part of one of my master's coursework. It was part of like a business plan I was doing for an earlier version of Anxious Extrovert. And I kept developing the logo, and I actually sat down and I kind of looked at the colors we had and which ones were calming, which ones, and I spent like a day with like the team going like, how can we make this look pretty? How can we make it look better? Do you know what annoys me the most? We sent before we even developed it further to where it is now, I sent the logo to a design student, right? And I just told her like, this is the name of the brand, come up with a logo. She took 5 seconds to come back with the logo that we'd already designed, that we'd spent days on. And we spent all that time just to go full circle and land exactly. I was just there like, okay, cool. So we did waste a day, because when I'm not saying that what she did was crap. I'm saying that we spent a day doing something that someone could come up with in 5 minutes, right? So we could have just saved the time and effort by just keeping it as it is and then give it to that person so they can use that same 5-minute energy to either come up with what we've already made or make it better. Yep. That's what we could have done.
Yep, we could have.
And it pains me. But you know what? Lessons learned. And that's
learning experience.
I was about to say the way we're doing it.
About to say learning experience. And the thing is, it's like, it's what I wanted to say, and I said it in the first episode. By the way, I never gave you your flowers for the logo, by the way, because the Evolve Podcast logo, I actually fucking love it. And,
cheers, bro.
And dear listeners, right? So when Sam and I were, talking about the podcast, we had 2 sessions. We had like 2 1-hour phone call conversations. And again, this is us being lean. We had 2 phone calls and I was like, right, the next episode we need to record and we just need to do something because it's us being lean. I didn't want to waste any more time talking about it. Little did I know, in this second phone call, Sam's designing the logo the entire time. The entire time. And the thing is, I didn't even talk about logo. You just sent it to me. It was like, oh, by the way, this is the logo. And I was like, what? You're like, yeah, I was just doing this the entire time you were talking. And I was just like, so Sam was being, I thought I was being lean by being like, yeah, we're going to record the next one. And that's a great business move. Little did I know, Sam's already solving like the face of the entire podcast while we're talking. And he's being exactly. And he's being the leanest person in the conversation when I thought I was being productive. But it was thick.
Entrepreneurship, bro.
So
I learned at school.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like for our podcast, we don't do second takes. We do one take, and whatever happens, even that first one, bro, was one take. And
waffle session. I loved it.
I loved the waffle episode. I loved the episode. I loved the waffle episode because I think we needed it. And it's like, I like how we do this lean. And the thing is, it's like, we could have easily done like I said, like we use Riverside because again, we know that could tick off everything we do. The podcast is mainly cut with AI. The captions are AI. So we're using all these tools to provide this in the quickest way possible. So it's like cutting the podcast isn't really much of a large task to do. Like the shorts, I use Opus AI because again, I don't have the capacity because I have obviously my full-time job. I don't have time to cut shorts all the time, but AI can do it for me. Like the descriptions that we use for the podcast, we use ChatGPT. Like there are so many tools that are free, or if you have a little bit of money and a co-host, you can, pull your resources together to be more lean, as opposed to being like, oh, what should we, write in the description like every single fucking week. Like it wastes so much time.
We live in a day and age right now where I'm not going to say everyone should fully rely on AI because I do think that will come to our detriment when every creative thought comes from a system that's using other people's creative thoughts to come out with results.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying everyone depend on AI. I do think we still go through the effort of checking it because sometimes it calls you Lewis with an E instead of like Lewis with the
that's what
that stuff. Sometimes it messes up. Sometimes we still have to add our own human touch, even when we write the blogs and even when I rewrite the blogs for the website and kind of extend the pieces a bit more, even then we still have to add a human touch. What I'm trying to say is that the goal of lean decisioning is based on the outcome, or is based on the cost. It's based on the cost you're trying to avoid. That's a smooth way of saying it.
Absolutely. And when you say cost, that could be...
It depends. It could be time.
Time and money and people.
Yeah. Exactly. Those are the main things. It's basically things that will slow you down towards your success, or things that you can't afford right now because of your current capabilities. For me, when we were making language experts at first, we couldn't afford anything really. We couldn't afford to pay like web fees and everything. That's why me and Ollie focused on using our tech skills to fill in the gaps. That's why we still do that now. We are very lean. Although we are overcomplicating how we do things, we are very messy in how we achieve our goals currently. Our costs are so ridiculously low. It's crazy. Like a month, we recently had our most expensive month because we were trialing some feature on AWS, and it was like £14. And that's because we tried some little feature that kind of, it kickstarted some like scripts and stuff to run on our clouds. Anyway, I'm getting too complicated. But yeah, it basically runs some stuff that had some cost, and we were like, okay, cool, not doing that again. But that was our most expensive month of running a whole website that's got a back end, it's got a system that reads all the data, all this stuff. It's even got like search functionality and all these. We've got stuff that if you turn into Wix or WordPress would probably be costing you about £30-40 a month to be running. And the most expensive month we've had from us making a little mistake was 14. So for us, cost is the main thing we're trying to avoid. Time is something that is currently on our side, so we're not as stressed about, because time becomes more of a bigger issue when our audience is huge. And right now we're kind of procrastinating. When our audience gets bigger and we've got more people depending on us to release things by a set date, then our main goal is avoiding time. It's to avoid time wasting. And how we fix that is more human resources and more support from outside, just me and Ollie.
Yeah.
And that's where our cost focus switches from being about how much money can we save to let's try and save money, but how much time can we really save? That becomes a new priority. And our lean decisioning focuses around the value driver being providing a high quality platform at lower time costs to develop. That's when we switch into that mindset. So you've got to really ask yourself, what are you trying to avoid wasting in order to be a lean person? It could be time and effort required to get your promotion. It could be time and effort required to get your business up. It could be avoiding certain negative influences or people in your path towards success. That's still a lean decision because it's a hell of an effort trying to tell certain friends to mind their own business. It really is. When people are forcing ideas down your throats, when people are forcing themselves into a space that you are currently in, that you're trying to develop in, and they're forcing their ways on you. Like, you know, when you talk about your idea, like a pub with someone or something, and all of a sudden their idea is the only way to achieve whatever goal you're trying to do. And you have to listen to them. If you don't, and then it becomes a problem and they try to force it down your throat, that you should do it. Pause. Yep. But yeah, those are the kind of things that it can be hard to avoid because you're still friends with them, you want to maintain it. So using that as a quirky example, Lewis, I can feel your energy in terms of you want to land. So before you do that, using that as a quirky example, how have you saved time and energy in terms of cutting out certain negative influences or avoiding negative influences from certain people whilst you're working on yourself?
Absolutely. So just to add onto that, I'll go into it. It's like, I think how you can use being lean to your advantage is that, and this is how I've done it in my experiences. Can you do the task quicker, cheaper, or faster? And you basically need to tick off as many of those as you can, at least 2. You could probably get away with 1, but you need at least 2. An example, my brother was using Opus AI to like do shorts from like all his talks and stuff. And I was like, oh no, I'll do it for you. And he was like, no, I'm using this, it's fine. And I was like, I can do it better and I'll do it for free. And he was like, okay, cool, you can do it then. And so we're going to work together on how to make his process better because his Instagram needs some work. That is what I will say.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I'm like, you should be. I mean, like, I'm like, your Instagram is way. It has boomer energy, and
Can I just say before I take us off track, it goes to show that you can still get the successes without over fixating on those types.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I was just like,
he's got hella money, but his Instagram's trash.
Yeah, Instagram's trash. And I was like, it needs work, so we're gonna work on that to make it better. Because and I was like, and the thing is, it's really funny because that day I watched this video being like, you do it quicker, cheaper, or faster, and I was like, cool. And I used it on him, and he doesn't know this. What? Yeah, so that's the main thing. I think those 3 arcs is what you need to provide. And can you just repeat the question just before?
So the question was basically, I was trying to take a quirky angle that isn't necessarily focused on the 3 things alone, but in terms of something that does happen in a lot of people's life, which is individuals having a negative impacts on your progress through like either forcing their opinions on you and making you work things in the way they want to do it. So I wanted to know if you've been through that situation because you're in creative world, so you definitely would have.
Not in terms of like a confrontational kind of way. But I think I've said this in a previous episode, like work will say, oh, there's this one way of doing this thing and we've done it for 5 years. And I'll be like, oh, you ever thought about doing it like this? And they'll be like, no. And then I will basically go out of my way and automate a process. And I think that's basically me being lean in my work. I will automate all these dull processes. And the thing is, like, I will really hate doing like their mundane way of doing something, which will take me an hour to do maybe. But I will spend 3 hours proving that it could be done in maybe 30 minutes. And they'll be like,
do you get the value out of it that you want?
I do, yes, because it makes my life easier. It's not my problem if they refuse to listen to it. So if they were to continue doing it their way, that's fine. But like I said, I will go and share a way of doing it faster. And once they realize, like, you know, I'm doing something way more productive, and then all of a sudden, I remember this actually happened on like a call. They were like, "Oh, Lewis, can you show this on a call to like the whole team in terms of how you get this done quicker?" Because it turns out it was everybody's grievances, and they basically sent it all in the email, and they all chose to ignore it until I showcased how it could be done quicker. So not that I was like glow about it, but no. But I think in terms of being lean, in terms of like my career, it's just like I think it goes in line with figure out ability as a skill in terms of being able to find a way to solve problems quickly, and in terms of how you find your way to progress. I think it's utilizing that. And sorry, just to go off on a tangent. So I'm saying this sort of podcast because you're going to laugh at it, and it's a bit left, but I can link it back. But bear with me.
Go on.
So one of my so I was part of the NTU Black Leadership Program, which is like basically mentor students. And I have a mentee. I had a mentee a few years ago who still reaches out to me if she wants like advice. I'm sure she won't mind calling out. Jess is her name. And she messaged me earlier this week being like, "Hi Lewis, hope you're well. Can we do you mind if we have a call next week? Just want to ask you for advice on terms of how to go about getting a pay increase or a pay rise and things like that." And I was like, oh boy. Bear in mind, I think she graduated like a year. So I was like, I think she started a job probably less than a year ago. And she says, "Yeah, I would really like a 15% pay rise by the end of the year." And I was like, "Oh, Jess, wouldn't we all?" I was like, I think it's like what I love about Jess is like I can be as blunt as possible and she'll take it. And I was like, "Jess, let me break it down for you in one sentence. We don't need to do a call. I'm going to send you this in one text. Get a new job." I was like, there is no way you're getting a 15% pay rise because even if you get a promotion, a good promotion pay rise is 10%. And there's a reason why I haven't stayed at the same job for more than 2 years is because I could probably do the same job elsewhere and get paid double. Bear in mind, my job right now compared to my first job is pretty much the same, but I'm getting paid double for it because I look like I have the experience. And I said to her as well, just before you go in, because I know you're going to agree with what I'm saying, right? Everyone at work knows who you are and what you do, right? You can go and lie about that to a different company who don't know you.
I would say lie.
Paid for it. No,
lie. The value of your work.
Okay, right. So Sam, bear in mind, Sam's doing a DBA. And what do you say, Sam? You say you're doing an MBA, and that's a lie.
No, no, I said...
Say something.
No, I'm doing a DBA, and I say I'm doing a PhD, but it's the same as a PhD. It's just no one understands what the DBA is.
But it's not a PhD. But you're going to say it. You're going to say it because it's a lie.
It's a PhD.
Exactly.
The simples understand PhD.
This exactly proves my point. You're going to go to somewhere else and lie because it sounds better.
Dear future employers, let me elaborate for you. Let me elaborate.
But basically,
this Donnie is cancelling my blessings.
But basically, all I was saying to her was like, that's not going to happen. But linking it back to this, I was like, look, the only way you're going to get a pay rise is if you're doing the most. It's what I was saying on the other one. It's like you got to do the extra work. You got to reply on weekends. And she was like, "Oh, what if I do all this and then they don't give me the promotion?" And I was like, then the game's a game. Or the simple solution is you don't do any of that and you quit your job and move elsewhere.
There you go. I will say this. I have achieved around 50% pay rise on every new job I've gone for. Some people I work with are going to hear this. Some people I worked with previously are going to hear this and going to get upset. So what I did was basically, I looked at the core values of what I was doing really good at in my current job. And I looked at the core things I needed to improve on. I weighed it up against where I wanted to go in life and what I was more enthusiastic about putting more energy into doing and learning. And then I pivoted my career every time. I went from just doing basic production specialist stuff into sales because I knew that I was more fixated on why the offers were what they were when I worked at Union Days, for example, or why things were the way they were when a client sends us information like marketing piece and all these things. I was more fixated on that and doing a better job on that. I already knew the basics of how to upload all that stuff. So then I went into the sales team who need a production person to do the job. and I applied my production knowledge. So then it was clear that not only do I have an enthusiasm to learn the sales side of things and the ability to actually translate that into an actionable, I understand perfectly how it's actioned further down the line. So no one can come to me from further down the line and be like, oh, we can't achieve this. Shut up. I know you can do it in less than 10 minutes. If not, I'll do it myself. Right?
Yeah.
So I went into a job being able to do what's further down, like we talk about lean, what's further down the life cycle, I had a clear idea about. So the decisions I was making at the higher point were more efficient by the time it got to someone further down. So then I had better outcomes from my work. And then I went from that into the growth. Well, I was a growth manager, but it's like growth account management because we're just a new startup team. It's just me and my director. So we basically went for low level stuff. But the pay, once again, was way better. And the reason why is that role focused on more about understanding who we can talk to get certain offers and then turn the offers. You know what I mean? So every new role I went into was like a higher level of thinking for what I was currently doing, but it relied heavily on an experience for those lower levels. So when I went into that other team, the ventures team, I was not only was I able to talk to new clients and like talk them into offers, I was able to directly tell them which ways we can do it in terms of making it better, more efficient, and get them a better return on their value, all that stuff. And not only was I able to articulate that, I was able to achieve that because I knew for a fact if I do it this and this way, it will get them X amount in return and they will love us for it. And clients love being on calls with me because of that. So that's the trick if you really want. If you're focused on growing your career, if you're focused on not being a business person, not being an entrepreneur, but being on a career path that earns you money, it's being very good at taking stock of what you're really good at and what you're enthusiastic about. And the enthusiastic stuff is very important because you're going to need it when you need to learn new stuff in the job role to keep pushing you. If not, you're going to hate it every time you have to do a bit of admin. You're going to hate that job because you're going to be looking at it thinking, oh my God, why am I doing this?
I would add to that as well, because what I was talking to her about as well is like you need to find the problem that loads of people are dealing with, and you need to master that and be the go-to person so you become irreplaceable. I was like, that's what you need to do if you want to stay in the same place and get all these promotions and progress. You want to be the leanest person in terms of like focusing on that. That's what I kind of wanted to bring it around to.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to discuss about as well is my personal experience is that I'm not in a very lean company, just due to its pure size. The projects that they do in a particular area of the business, I'm working on something which, like, okay, for example, say for instance, they're literally going to market with a product and be like, oh, it's going to do this, 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 and this. And it's people all up top saying, oh, we want to be able to do this, this, and this. And basically they think they're solving a problem that they think people think is a problem, and it's not. And they have no MVP to prove that it works. And it's evident that there's been no lean thinking because they've had a habit of going to launch with something that hasn't even been viably been tested and worked. And then they go to launch and then they have all these problems. And like the foundation of what they're going to market with isn't working.
Is it like,
it's just
there's a fail fast mentality though.
But the
which
thing
is not great when you're part. It's never great when you're part of the cogs in that process.
Yeah,
it's very demoralizing when you keep
and it's like
watching your stuff die. But at a higher level, they're just like, bin it, next one, bin it.
That's what I mean. And it's like what you were saying. It's like, you know, they really appreciated like your low when you're thinking when you're at a lower level because you understood the whole process. Whereas a lot of people come up top and say, oh, wouldn't this cool vanity project be cool?
Oh
and then turns out you need feedback from people at a low level, and turns out the thing doesn't work, and now you're scrambling, and then you fire people and all that sort of stuff. And this is the disadvantage of working at large companies. You have a risk of it not working. Now, my previous company was like 70 people that I worked with, and they were always doing the build, measure, feedback loop. And whenever we were saying, like, it was the one time I actually felt like on team calls when I had vented my frustrations, like the product team would actually listen and build something based off our feedback. And then I'll go to market and it'll be better, and we'll be able to work better, and then we're able to build up more value because of these bugs and tweaks and all these technical things that have actually been fixed. And they actually respected the opinions and took on board the opinions of, like, you know, your account managers, your AEs and things like that. Whereas if you're at a big reputable company where there's literally 250,000 people applying every single month, they don't care if an AE or an account manager is having problems with the software they're using, which is significantly outdated, because they know there are people that can replace you. Whereas there's less of a cost or waste when you're at a big company and you can afford to hire and fire as you please. But if you're a 70 company startup, hiring people takes time and it takes money. And it's difficult to hire when you're a startup because, you know, you have all these big companies that give you, you know, all the perks and things and all that sort of stuff. So I definitely see value in working in smaller companies. And I think usually bigger companies are romanticized a lot. But one thing I will say, and hopefully this perks the ears up of people who are looking for their next job and things like that. In my previous company, when it performs, if you find yourself fortunate to be in a company that performs well, this was previously in my company. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but when it comes to like bonuses and pay rises, I got like an 11% pay rise within a year. I got like a 10%, and then I got like no, that's a lie. I got like a 10, then a 6% raise. Just because the company was doing so well. And like when they have the money, they don't know what to do with it. So they invest it in the people. So although you might not get like the free breakfast and, you know, the fresh fruit every single day in the office, the company does well. And it turns out you actually have more of a part of the company. Because if there's 100 people in the company and you're one of them, you're 1% of the company, not 0.01% of a company. So your output actually has a big difference. So, and it gives you way more of room to have an impact. So I hope that makes sense. And I hope I've kind of brought this around full circle in terms of why being lean in certain environments is a lot better. You do have a lot going against you in terms of being lean. If you're in a large company, if you have, you know, a boss's boss to get to the CEO, it's going to be hard to kind of people to take you seriously. But at the same time, you can even apply lean thinking and decision making and automate things to make your job easier, even if it isn't making the company's life easier.
So all of this reminds me of us saying about how I looked at some coursework I did. So we did a module in my Entrepreneurship Masters called Value Creation. And one of the hand-ins focused on how to use a lean approach, essentially, to find value, to basically action it, to get more out of a business. And it used this business, it's a Japanese business called Tamagoya. It's like a food preparation. They have a lot of like shops. It's almost like your sushi, I think, type business. But the model we looked, wow, the model we looked at was they basically facilitate this thing where they deliver food to offices, and they have a really good approach of knowing exactly how much food to make the day before, and then knowing exactly how much to give out. And this company basically they've got a lean agile strategy technically, which is they adapt to changes in the market. It's not always the same sandwich they're printing out or all these things, right? It's like they have a way of analyzing what people like and don't like in an area. So that's what they do first. First, they go and take stock in an area. They do their research. They go into an area. We don't know how. They'll research the distance from their factories to that place. They'll research in their shops in the local area, what sandwiches do the office workers tend to buy, all this stuff. And then what they'll do is they'll obviously pitch it to the business that we can supply you your lunches. We've got this is our rating, blah, blah. This is how amazing we are. And when they come to give the food, they'll do it based on the data and understanding they have of that area of this is how many sandwiches get eaten by this people who live in this general area. So we can assume that in this office building, this is how much these people eat, wherever it is, right?
Yeah.
They then go and provide, and they've got this thing called, Chase demand diagram, which is basically, imagine the demand of how many people are in work and wherever it is. It's like that. It's like a wavy, not so predictable, but it's like a You could tell the direction it's going in. And because it's a lean strategy, you either have enough or you don't. So it's more like rigid off like steps, like, oh, we've got enough, we don't, we've got enough. And the chase demand diagram is basically what they do is they're more often than not just underneath the demand curve. So they're always serving enough people to make them happy, but it's always a case where there's more to serve. So they're always in a position where there's more that could be done, rather than having too much food and not being able to get rid of it all. And what I'm essentially trying to get into here is that with the right amount of preparation, with the right amount of understanding of what you've got to do for work or what you've got to do in your personal life, you can be in a position where you're using your energy efficiently and there's always more to reach for and more goals to grab. But you're not in that position where you're not doing enough that it's so noticeable. So you're able to reach the demand and there's still more you can do to achieve it, but you're never overworking yourself, as well as you're never really underperforming so much that everyone's kind of going, what are you doing? You waste of money, like go home, right? And with the right understanding of what you're doing, asking the right questions, being vulnerable enough to go to your manager, or whoever it is, who your mentor is, and saying, this is what I want to achieve, I can't achieve it, learning from experiences and stuff in your area, and keeping note of what's going well and what's not going well, you start to see a pattern in what's required of you. In sales, is the best example I have is the pattern usually requires that you look at previous performances, like previous year's performances for your company. You see what quarters need you to be focusing more, what quarters don't. And when you work in a company that has a sales team, you tend to see that around, I don't know, Q1, Q4, everyone from sales is a dick. Q2, Q3, it's kind of, they're still dicks, but like lower level dicks. And the reason why is Q1, they get crazy targets, they start panicking, they start getting into like talk to clients. That's when you start planting seeds. Q2, Q3, they kind of like chill for a bit. Like, yeah, we've already got all these campaigns on the run. Q4, everyone's a dick again because either they've not reached their target, more often than not, they've not reached the target. Now they've got to panic and they've got to get lots of sales in, or they've reached their target, they're going to slow down and they kind of just take a backseat and they spend all their time doing admin. Either way, when you're further down the line, you're getting shut on because the guy who needs admin done is going to ask for reports and some dumb stuff like, oh, can you show me like how you did this? Can you show me the performance from this marketing piece, wherever it is? Or it's going to be X company has booked in marketing, get it done this weekend. They've got targets to hit, right? So it's either way, Q1, Q4, dickheads. Q2, Q3, chill kind of vibe. One thing I learned in that experience that when I wasn't in sales, but I worked below it, I prepared myself to just look at emails and run through work in Q1 and Q4. Just emails, work, no pet projects. If I can avoid pet projects, I'll try. But no, Q2, Q3, build relationships, talk to people in sales, learn more about what they do. Q4, back to Q1 behavior. I'm here to impress. I'm here to get these things done, blah, blah. That's when and my managers and stuff at the time in Q2 and Q3 didn't like seeing me take more of a chill approach. But well and truly, they had no leg to stand on because people liked me and people were seeing the value of my work. But that's because I learned the pattern of their behaviors and what to expect.
Absolutely.
And then when I got into sales, I was prepared for that pattern because I knew that clients are going to come at me. So I got into a habit of making Excel sheets and stuff and preparing stuff that would help me improve further on. Where it went wrong for me is when I decided to do creative pet projects during Q1 and Q4, where I basically decided to be agile instead of lean. And what I'm basically saying is there's a time to take stock and there's a time to just do the thing. You just got to find out when you've got to do which one. And once you get better at it, it's a labor of love. It's a constantly developing habit. It's something I'm developing now because I'm new environment, my new job, new to balancing the PhD, DBA, the pod, anxious extrovert, all this stuff. But now it's time to find a pattern that's working for me. And one of the things I've never factored in before, but I am now, is my mindset towards achieving it. I've realized that me overthinking, me overprocessing, and me being so rigid and like stiff and putting 110% effort into something that requires just 10%, it's burning me out. It's burning me out for effectively what is further quarters of stuff I need to do. But realistically, we are currently just in Q2, Q3. Like, we've got to do a lot of work. We've got to but we have room to maneuver and learn the land, right? We have room to like learn what posts do what on our Instagrams. Same for extrovert. We have room to kind of learn what kind of stuff people give us feedback from, all this stuff, what stuff we enjoy doing. And then when we get to our Q1s and Q4s, we'll either be smashing it, or we might do bad, but we'll take stock of what we've done bad, and in Q2 and Q3 we'll do better again. So that's the mindset I'm kind of taking in. I'm learning that I don't have to be as rigid or as forceful with the wins. I just need to rely on the technique. And that's actually one of the biggest wins from Thai boxing as well. Just rely on the technique. If your technique is good, sometimes you don't need to put as much strength into things. You'll be fine. So yeah,
man. Yeah,
that's a bit of wisdom, sound wisdom.
I think that's good to end on. I didn't think I have anything else to add on that.
Let's go.
Cool. Well, 10 episodes, man. Congratulations.
Bro.
10, bro.
10x. Let's get to 100.
Yeah, I mean, double digits. That's sick.
Yeah. 10 has come back quick,
10 has
really has come back so quick.
It's been 10 weeks of Evolve, so thank you guys for listening.
Wow. Nearly 3 months. It's like a baby, when you start talking.
Bro, we started this.
It's like it's 10 weeks old now.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. So I don't know when this episode. Oh yeah, we're still ahead. So our first episode came out April 12th. I'm not sure which one. This probably comes out in end of June, I think.
I don't know.
I think it's June 24th. Yeah. I think it's June 24th. I've scheduled it June 24th or July. I can't remember. Okay. But anyway, guys, thank you. Love and support for the 10 episodes has been very sick. I did a post today. I was like, oh, thank you. It was on the episode 6 promo. And it's been cool. We're loving doing this. And I'm going to lead with gratitude. I'm going to lead with gratitude.
Thing I see people do.
For,
what? Little heart. I see it on like BTS.
What are you doing? Sam, this is an audio medium, bro.
What's your YouTube video in it? What's your YouTube video?
No, on YouTube. I'd see whatever the... Sam, I don't know what you're doing. What is this? You. Okay, right. Don't ever do that shit again.
It doesn't let me have fun, man. It's
right.
Abusive relationship.
But yeah, thank you guys for love and support so far. Right, guys, go on the Instagram if you haven't. If you probably already follow us, but if you haven't, the Podcast Evolve on Instagram, the Podcast Evolve on TikTok, the Podcast Evolve on YouTube. Come and see our faces. Come and see what we look like. So if you have any questions on the internet, right?
www.thepodcastevolve.com.
Oh yes, that's Sam's website.
Yeah.
But she not www as Sam said last week.
www. Let me get away.
Guys, if you have any questions, emails, comments, thepodcastevolve@gmail.com. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I'm posting stuff outside other than shorts on the Instagram. I really hope so. Yeah, we're going to post cool shit
stuff as well. We can be more active on socials.
Yeah, we're going to be more active on socials.
I might make a public profile.
Sam might make a public profile.
Sam do dumb stuff more often. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If more people comment it, I'll do it.
Yeah. And then cool. All right. Love you guys. See you all next week. Take care. Peace.
Goodbye.
Bye.